The scent of lavender and pine sol always meant trouble. Mother Dearest was stress cleaning again, probably reorganizing my cabinets or rearranging Emma's toys for the 100th time. I should have known something was wrong when I pulled into the driveway and caught that familiar chemical smell wafting through the open windows. I'm Julia, and until today, I thought I had mastered the art of living with my mother-in-law Martha. 6 months of practiced smiles, carefully chosen words, and strategic retreats to maintain peace in my own home. But sometimes peace comes at too high a price. "Mommy!" Emma crashed into my legs the moment I stepped through the door, her dark curls wild and untamed. "Grandma Martha says we're having pizza for dinner." Does she now? I kept my voice light, though my stomach clenched. Another dinner decision made without my input. Another small rebellion against my authority in my own home. The house was spotless. Too spotless. Martha's cleaning frenzies usually meant she was building up to something. I found her in the living room, perched on the edge of the sofa like a bird of prey, hands folded primly in her lap. "Julia, dear, how was your outing?" The pause before outing carried enough judgment to fill a courtroom. "The charity lunch was lovely, Martha. Thank you for watching Emma." I moved toward the bookshelf where I kept our family photo album, needing to add some pictures from today's event. The empty space where it should have been made, my heart skip. "Looking for something?" Martha's voice carried that sickly sweet tone she reserved for her special moments of triumph. The photo album. "Oh, that old thing?" She waved dismissively. "I took the liberty of reorganizing your photographs. They were in such disarray. But while I was at it, I couldn't help but notice how few recent pictures you have of Emma. A mother should document every precious moment, don't you think?" My fingers curled into fists. "Where is it, Martha?" She reached beside the sofa and produced a crisp white envelope. "I've written down some thoughts about proper maternal documentation, and perhaps some other areas where a bit more attention might be beneficial." I snatched the envelope, my hands trembling as I pulled out the letter. Each perfectly penned word was a dagger. "Dear Julia, as a mother myself, I feel compelled to address certain concerns regarding Emma's upbringing. Your frequent absences, 3 charity events this month alone, and lack of proper documentation of Emma's childhood moments suggest a troubling pattern of neglect." The letter went on, 2 pages of carefully crafted criticism disguised as concern. My photo album, the one containing every precious memory since Emma's birth, was being held hostage until I demonstrated more maternal responsibility. "Where is my album?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Somewhere safe," Martha smiled, "until you've had time to reflect on my suggestions." Emma tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, can we look at the pictures of my birthday?" I crouched down to her level, forcing a smile. "Not right now, sweetheart. Why don't you go play in your room while I talk to Grandma Martha?" After Emma disappeared upstairs, I turned to face my mother-in-law. "This ends now." "I'm only thinking of Emma's best interests," Martha said, rising from the sofa. "Someone has to." The front door opened and Ryan's voice called out, "I'm home early. Something smells amazing." Martha's face transformed instantly into a mask of maternal concern. "In here, darling. I was just having a heart-to-heart with Julia about some family matters." I watched her glide toward my husband, the letter crumpling in my grip. 6 months of subtle undermining, of questioning my every decision, of trying to drive a wedge between me and my daughter. But stealing my memories? That was her first real mistake, and I was done playing defense. Ryan's fork scraped against his plate, the sound grating against my nerves like fingernails on a chalkboard. He hadn't looked up once during Martha's theatrical recounting of her day with Emma. "And then," Martha continued, dabbing her lips with a napkin, "I showed Emma those lovely ballet videos from when you were young, Ryan. She was absolutely transfixed." "That's nice, Mom." Ryan's attention remained fixed on his phone, probably checking work emails again. I pushed my untouched pizza around the plate, the stolen photo album weighing heavy on my mind. "Emma, sweetie, how about we read that new library book before bed?" "Oh," Martha interjected, "I've already promised to read her the special book I bought today. It's about a little girl who lives with her grandmother. Isn't that right, precious?" Emma nodded, her eyes darting between Martha and me. The hesitation in her expression made my chest tighten. Actually, I said, measuring each word, I'd like to spend some time with my daughter before bed. Martha's smile didn't waver, but her knuckles whitened around her wine glass. Julia, dear, you've had your outing today. Surely you can spare Emma for one bedtime story with her grandmother. Ryan? I turned to my husband, silently pleading for support. He finally looked up, confusion crossing his features. What's the problem? Mom's just trying to help, Jules. You know how busy you've been lately with all these charity events. The betrayal stung worse than I expected. I've attended exactly 3 events in 6 months, Ryan. 3. Now, Julia. Martha's voice dripped with false concern. There's no need to get defensive. We're all family here. Speaking of which, Ryan, did you know Julia missed Emma's dance class last week? I didn't miss, I started, but Martha steamrolled over my protest. Emma was so disappointed when all the other mothers were there for the parent observation day. Ryan frowned. Jules, you didn't mention that. Because it wasn't parent observation day, I snapped. That's next week. I have it marked on the calendar in the kitchen. Martha's eyes widened in practiced innocence. Oh dear, did I get the dates mixed up? I could have sworn... Well, no matter, I was happy to step in regardless. Emma's small voice cut through the tension. Mommy, my tummy hurts. I pushed back from the table, grateful for the excuse to escape. Come on, sweetheart, let's get you upstairs. In Emma's bathroom, I held her hair back as she threw up the pizza. Martha appeared in the doorway, hovering like a concerned vulture. Poor dear, she cooed. I knew that second slice was too much. Julia, you really should monitor her portions more carefully. I bit back a retort, focusing instead on comforting Emma. It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. Perhaps, Martha suggested, Emma should sleep in my room tonight. I have more experience with sick children, after all. Absolutely not. The words came out sharper than I intended. Julia! Ryan's voice carried from the hallway. Mom's just trying to help. I helped Emma rinse her mouth, my mind racing. This was Martha's game, death by 1,000 cuts, each small criticism and intervention designed to paint me as an incompetent mother. Later, after Emma had finally fallen asleep in her own bed, I found Ryan in his home office. We need to talk about your mother. He sighed without looking up from his laptop. Can we not do this tonight? I have a presentation tomorrow. She took our photo album. What? That got his attention. She's holding it hostage until I prove I'm a better mother. Ryan rubbed his temples. Jules, that doesn't even make sense. Mom wouldn't... Check her room, I challenged. Right now. I'll wait. He stared at me for a long moment before standing. Fine, but when we don't find anything, I want you to drop this attitude toward my mother. I followed him to Martha's door, where we found it locked, a first since she'd moved in. Ryan knocked. Mom, you awake? Just a moment, darling. Martha's voice was followed by suspicious rustling sounds. When she opened the door, her smile was too bright, too rehearsed. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of something familiar being hastily shoved under her pillow, the corner of a blue album cover I would recognize anywhere. Ryan saw it too. His shoulders tensed, but before he could speak, Martha launched into a story about feeling unwell and needing her rest. As we walked away, I watched my husband's face carefully. The crack in his perfect image of his mother was tiny, but it was there, and I intended to make it bigger. The email from Emma's school glowed accusingly on my phone screen. My daughter had been enrolled in 3 new after-school activities: advanced math tutoring, competitive gymnastics, and Chinese lessons. I hadn't signed up for any of them. My brother David set a steaming cup of coffee in front of me. We were hiding out in his restaurant's back office, the only place I could think straight anymore. Show me that email again. I handed him my phone. The enrollment forms were signed last week, while I was at that dentist appointment. Jesus, David muttered, scrolling through the message. Martha's got some nerve, signing Emma up for all this without telling you. She used Ryan's email address. He probably hasn't even noticed the confirmations coming in. I wrapped my hands around the coffee mug, trying to stop them from shaking. You should see Emma, David. She's exhausted, 6 years old and scheduled down to the minute. Have you told Ryan? He's barely home. When he is, Martha's always there, hovering, controlling the narrative. The coffee burned my tongue, but I welcomed the pain. This morning, she told him I forgot to pack Emma's lunch. I didn't forget. She hid the lunch I made and packed her own. A knock at the office door made me jump. One of David's waitresses poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but there's a call for Julia. Says it's about Emma. My heart stopped. I grabbed the phone from David's desk. Hello? Mrs. Harrison? This is Nurse Chen from Riverside Elementary. Emma's feeling unwell. She got dizzy during her lunch break and... Dizzy? Is she okay? She's resting now. Your mother-in-law is already here to pick her up. No! The word exploded from me. Do not release my daughter to anyone but me. I'm on my way. I found them in the nurse's office. Martha perched on the edge of Emma's cot, stroking her hair. My daughter's face was pale, dark circles under her eyes that no 6-year-old should have. Julia, Martha's voice dripped concern. You didn't need to leave your... Whatever you were doing, I had everything under control. Emma, baby, how are you feeling? I knelt beside the cot, opposite Martha. Tired, Mommy, my head hurts. Of course she's tired, Martha said. Children need structure, discipline. These new programs will help build her character. Programs you signed her up for without my knowledge or consent. Martha's eyes narrowed. Ryan agreed. Ryan doesn't know, does he? You forged the signatures, used his email, just like you've been going through my phone, deleting messages from the school. I don't know what you're talking about. But her hand tightened on Emma's shoulder, making my daughter wince. Let go of her. Julia, you're being hysterical. This is exactly why I said, let go of my daughter. Nurse Chen appeared in the doorway, sensing the tension. Is everything all right? No, I said, pulling out my phone. It's not. I'm calling my husband. Martha's composure cracked. He's in an important meeting. About his daughter being in the nurse's office? About you forging his signature? Let's see what he thinks is important. I dialed, holding Martha's gaze. 1 ring, 2, 3. Jules, I'm kind of in the middle of something. Emma's in the nurse's office. She collapsed from exhaustion because your mother enrolled her in 3 extra programs without our permission. She forged your signature, Ryan, used your email. Check your deleted folders. You'll find the confirmations she tried to hide. Silence. Then, Mom did what? Martha was already gathering her things, backing toward the door. Ryan, darling, I can explain. But Ryan's voice had changed, hardened. Don't move, Mom. Jules, take Emma home. I'm leaving work now. I lifted Emma into my arms, her small body too light, too fragile. Martha blocked the doorway. This isn't over, she whispered, low enough that only I could hear. You have no idea what you're doing. No, Martha, I replied, feeling Emma's arms tighten around my neck. For the first time, I know exactly what I'm doing. As I carried Emma to the car, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about the photo album anymore. This was war, and Martha had just lost her first major battle, but the look in her eyes told me she wasn't done fighting, not by a long shot. The box appeared on our doorstep 3 days after the school incident. No return address, just Emma's name in Martha's perfect cursive. Inside lay my wedding dress, carefully cut into precise, methodical strips. I stood in the kitchen, holding the mutilated silk when Ryan came home early. His face darkened at the sight. Mom's gone too far. He ran his fingers through his hair. I'll talk to her. Like you talked to her about the forged signatures? The words came out sharper than intended. She apologized, you accepted, and nothing changed. What do you want me to do, Jules? Throw her out? The front door opened before I could respond. Martha's voice carried from the hallway, accompanied by Emma's excited chatter. And then we can show Daddy your wonderful news. Ryan frowned. What news? Martha swept in, brandishing a piece of paper. Emma's been accepted into St. Catherine's Academy. Isn't it wonderful? My stomach dropped. St. Catherine's was 2 hours away. It's a boarding school, Martha continued, beaming. The same one Ryan attended. I took the liberty of submitting an application months ago, and they've offered her a full scholarship. Ryan took the acceptance letter, his expression unreadable. Mom, we never discussed— Of course, I knew Julia might object, Martha cut in, given her attachment issues. But Emma deserves the best education possible. Don't you agree? Emma tugged at my sleeve. Grandma says they have horses, Mommy. I crouched down to her level, fighting to keep my voice steady. Sweetie, why don't you go upstairs and start your homework? We need to talk about this as adults. Once Emma was gone, I turned to Martha. You had no right. I had every right. Martha's mask slipped, revealing something cold beneath. As a grandmother, as a former educator, as someone who wants more for Emma than this. She gestured dismissively at our home. Ryan, I said quietly, your mother just tried to send our daughter to boarding school without consulting us. Are you going to say anything? He stood there, still holding the acceptance letter, looking lost. It is a good school, Jules. Something inside me shattered. I need some air. I grabbed my keys, the shredded wedding dress still clutched in my other hand. Julia, don't be dramatic, Martha called after me. This is exactly why Emma needs proper guidance. I slammed the door on her words. 20 minutes later, I sat in David's office again, spreading the strips of my wedding dress across his desk. She's trying to take Emma. My voice sounded strange, distant. And Ryan, he's actually considering it. David examined one of the silk strips. This is a threat, Julia. She's showing you what she can do to your marriage, your family. I know. I picked up a piece of the dress, remembering how proud Martha had been at the wedding, all smiles and tears. She's been playing the long game. Every criticism, every helpful suggestion, every time she undermined my decisions, it was all leading to this. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Come home, please, we need to talk. Another buzz, this time from an unknown number. I opened it and felt my blood freeze. Photos of me, taken without my knowledge over the past week, at David's restaurant, running errands, meeting my friend Sarah for coffee. The final image showed me embracing David outside his restaurant, the angle making our innocent hug appear intimate. A message followed. What would Ryan think about his wife's afternoon activities? Perhaps Emma really would be better off at boarding school. David read the messages over my shoulder and swore. That's it. We're going to the police. No. I stood up, something hardening inside me. Martha wants to play games? Fine. But she forgot something important. What's that? I gathered the strips of my wedding dress, each piece a reminder of Martha's escalating war against me. I'm not just fighting for my marriage anymore. I'm fighting for my daughter, and unlike Martha, I don't need to play dirty to win. Julia. I'm going home, I said, my voice steady for the first time in days. It's time to show Ryan exactly who his mother really is. The antique vase shattered against the hardwood floor, its pieces scattering like broken promises. I stood frozen in the hallway, watching Martha's performance begin. Emma! Her voice carried upstairs. Come down here this instant! I'd been heading to the kitchen when I'd overheard her whispered phone conversation. Of course I have a plan. When Julia confronts me about the photos, I'll make sure Emma takes the blame for something valuable. Then we'll see who's the responsible parent. The sound of Emma's footsteps pulled me back to the present. My daughter appeared at the top of the stairs, still in her pajamas. What happened? Emma's voice trembled. Martha's face twisted into a mask of stern disappointment. Did you knock over great-grandmother's vase while running in the house? The one I specifically told you to be careful around? I didn't. Emma was in her room, I said, stepping forward. I've been standing here the whole time. Martha's eyes narrowed. Julia, please. I saw her running past just moments ago. That's interesting. I pulled out my phone, showing the video I'd started recording the moment I heard her plan. Because I saw something very different. The color drained from Martha's face. You were spying on me? Mom, what's going on? Ryan appeared from his home office, drawn by the commotion. Martha's tears appeared on cue. Oh, Ryan, I was just trying to teach Emma about responsibility. And Julia? She's trying to turn everyone against me. By breaking your own vase, I played the video. Martha's voice filled the hallway. When Julia confronts me about the photos. What photos? Ryan asked. Martha lunged for my phone. I stepped back, letting her momentum carry her forward. She stumbled, catching herself against the wall. The ones she took of me without my consent. I pulled up the threatening messages. The ones she used to suggest I was having an affair with my own brother. Ryan took my phone, scrolling through the messages. His jaw tightened. Mom? She's twisting everything. Martha's voice rose hysterically. I was protecting you, protecting Emma. Julia's been sneaking around, meeting that brother of hers in secret. For coffee, I cut in. At his restaurant, in public. Because my own home hasn't felt safe since you moved in. Emma's small voice broke through the tension. Grandma broke the vase. I saw her from upstairs. Martha spun toward Emma. Darling, you're confused. You know how your mother fills your head with... Don't! Ryan's voice was ice. Don't you dare try to manipulate my daughter. Ryan, sweetheart. The boarding school application? He advanced toward his mother. The deleted emails, the forged signatures, and now this? Martha's facade cracked. Everything I did for this family. Julia's not good enough for you, can't you see that? She's turning Emma soft, making her weak. The only weakness I see, Ryan said quietly, is your grip on reality. I gathered Emma into my arms, feeling her tremble. Go pack a bag, sweetheart. We're going to spend a few days at Uncle David's. No one is going anywhere, Martha blocked the stairs. This is my family. I won't let you destroy it. Your family? Ryan's laugh was hollow. You've been destroying it piece by piece since you moved in. The photo album, Julia's wedding dress, and now this? You're the one tearing us apart. The wedding dress? Martha's smile turned cruel. She deserved it. Parading around like she belongs here, like she's worthy of the Harrison name. That's enough. Ryan pulled out his phone. I'm calling a car service. Pack your things, Mom. You're moving into a hotel tonight. Martha's mask shattered completely. You can't do this to me. I'm your mother. And I'm your son, watching you try to destroy my wife and traumatize my child. Ryan's voice broke. I chose this family. My family. It's time for you to leave. As Martha stormed upstairs, hurling threats and accusations, I held Emma closer. The broken vase glittered around us like the remnants of Martha's control, finally shattered beyond repair. But in the fragments, I saw something else. The reflection of my family, stronger in their brokenness, ready to rebuild without Martha's poisonous influence. The war wasn't over. Martha's retreat would only make her more dangerous. But for the first time, we were fighting together. The hotel lobby gleamed with polished marble and false promises. Martha sat across from us, perfectly composed in her designer suit, while a team of lawyers arranged papers on the mahogany table between us. It's quite simple, her lead attorney said. Either Emma attends St. Catherine's or Mrs. Harrison will pursue full grandparental rights. Ryan's hand tightened around mine. You can't be serious. Oh, but I am. Martha's smile never reached her eyes. I've documented everything. Julia's erratic behavior, her suspicious meetings, her attempts to alienate Emma from her family heritage. By family heritage, you mean you, I said. Martha's lawyer slid forward a thick folder. We have witness statements from Emma's teachers about Julia's frequent absences from school events, documentation of emotional manipulation, evidence of an inappropriate relationship with her brother. Those pictures were taken out of context, Ryan snapped. You orchestrated all of this. Did I? Martha leaned forward. Or did I simply observe a mother who's clearly unfit? The courts tend to favor stability, tradition, a prestigious boarding school education versus, what exactly? Afternoon cartoons and takeout dinners? I stared at the legal documents, my vision blurring. Months of Martha's careful groundwork spread before us, altered dates on photographs, carefully edited text messages, statements from concerned neighbors she'd cultivated. You've been planning this since you moved in, I whispered. I've been protecting my granddaughter. Martha's mask slipped, revealing something desperate underneath. Ryan, darling, surely you see that Emma deserves better, the same opportunities you had? I was miserable at boarding school, Ryan said quietly. You were challenged, shaped into success. Martha's voice hardened. Julia's making Emma soft, dependent. Just look at how the child clings to her. Because I'm her mother. For now. Martha nodded to her lawyer, who produced another document. We are prepared to be generous. Joint custody, with Emma attending St. Catherine's. Or we can make this very public, very messy. Your choice. Ryan started to speak, but his phone buzzed. He checked it, his face draining of color. What is it? I asked. He turned the phone toward me. On the screen, a news article showed David's restaurant, emergency vehicles crowding the street. The headline read, "Local restaurant shut down, health code violations." Tragic timing, Martha said softly. One might question the judgment of someone who associates with such questionable business practices. My brother's livelihood, destroyed in minutes, because of me, because he tried to help. You're destroying everyone I love, I said. No, Julia. You did that yourself by trying to come between me and my family. Martha stood, smoothing her jacket. You have 24 hours to decide Emma's future at St. Catherine's or a very public custody battle that will expose every flaw, every mistake, every secret you've tried to hide. She paused at the door. Oh, and Julia? I found your photo album. The memories you tried so desperately to preserve, they're gone now, just like everything else will be, unless you make the right choice. After she left, Ryan and I sat in silence, the weight of her ultimatum crushing us. We could fight, he said finally, and risk losing Emma completely? I pulled out my phone, showing him the latest text from David. Health inspectors came out of nowhere. Everything's gone, Jules. Everything. Julia? No. I stood up, my decision crystallizing like ice in my veins. I won't let her destroy anyone else I love. What are you saying? I picked up the boarding school acceptance papers, my hands steady despite the trembling in my heart. I'm saying we send Emma to St. Catherine's, and then... Then what? I thought of my shredded wedding dress, my burned photos, my brother's ruined business. Then I stopped playing by Martha's rules. She wants to teach Emma about family heritage? Fine. Let's show her what happens when you declare war on the wrong family. Ryan stared at me, seeing something new in my eyes, something that made him lean back slightly. Good. Because the woman who walked into this hotel was dead now, killed by Martha's final power play. And the one walking out? She had nothing left to lose. St. Catherine's Academy loomed before us, all Gothic spires and ivy-covered walls. Martha stood at the top of the stone steps, waiting to welcome her victory. Behind her, a photographer from the local paper adjusted his camera. Right on schedule, Martha called out. Emma, darling, come to grandmother. I kept hold of Emma's hand, Ryan flanking our other side. The manila envelope in my bag felt heavy with purpose. Julia, Martha's smile tightened. You're not planning to make a scene, are you? Think of the headlines. Oh, I am. I handed Emma's bag to Ryan and climbed the steps. In fact, I brought some headline suggestions of my own. Martha's lawyer emerged from the shadows. Mrs. Harrison, remember our agreement? The agreement's void. I pulled out my phone, dialing a number. David, you're on speaker. My brother's voice filled the space between us. Got the evidence right here, Jules. Health inspector confirmed it. Someone paid him to target the restaurant. Bank transfers, text messages, all trace back to a certain retired teacher's account. Martha's face hardened. Lies. Then there's this. I produced the manila envelope. Remember Mrs. Chen? Emma's nurse? Turns out she keeps excellent records, including the time you tried to convince her Emma was being neglected at home. I was protecting... and these... More papers spilled out. Your financial records. Every bribe, every manipulated situation, every person you paid to spy on me. Did you really think I'd just surrender? The photographer started snapping pictures. Martha lunged for him. Stop that! Why? I asked. Isn't this what you wanted? Public attention? Let's give them a real story. How a respected teacher orchestrated a campaign of harassment against her daughter-in-law. How she destroyed a local business, manipulated medical records, all to gain control of her granddaughter. You wouldn't dare. But fear had crept into Martha's voice. I'll ruin you. You already tried. Ryan stepped forward, Emma secure in his arms. But here's what's going to happen instead. You're going to drop this custody threat. You're going to publicly apologize to Julia and David. And you're going to disappear from our lives. Or what? I held up my phone. Or every newspaper in the state gets proof of your crimes. Every parent at your precious St. Catherine's learns what kind of woman you really are. Your reputation, your social standing, your whole carefully constructed image, gone. You can't prove? The nurse recorded your conversation, Martha. The health inspector kept his text messages. And your financial records? I smiled. Let's just say Ryan isn't the only one good with numbers. Martha's lawyer quietly gathered his papers and retreated. The photographer kept shooting, capturing her unraveling moment by moment. I am your mother, she hissed at Ryan. No. He met her gaze steadily. You're a woman who forgot that love isn't about control, that family isn't about power. Emma deserves better than your kind of legacy. Mommy? Emma's voice cut through the tension. Can we go home now? Martha made one last desperate grab for her granddaughter. I stepped between them, my voice low enough for only her to hear. You took my photos, my memories. You tried to take my daughter. But you forgot something crucial, Martha. You taught Ryan everything he knows about power plays and manipulation. And I learned from watching you, too. This isn't over, she whispered. Actually, it is. I turned to the photographer. I believe you have enough for your story. Respected teacher's attempted kidnapping scheme exposed should make quite a headline. Martha's face crumpled as she finally recognized her defeat. All her careful plans, her manipulations, her power, useless against the simple truth she'd tried to bury. Love doesn't need schemes or control. It just needs to be real. As we walked away, Emma's hand warm in mine, Ryan's arm steady around us both, I heard Martha's broken whisper behind us. What have you done? I didn't turn around. She already knew the answer. I'd done exactly what she taught me to do. Protect my family at any cost. The difference was, I'd won by telling the truth, not by burying it. And that would haunt her more than any revenge I could have planned. The small box arrived on a Tuesday, addressed to Emma in Martha's unmistakable handwriting. I turned it over in my hands, feeling its negligible weight, while Ryan watched from across the kitchen table. We could throw it away, he offered. I shook my head. She deserves to choose. Emma sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by the art supplies from her 7th birthday party last week. She barely glanced at the package. Is it from Grandma Martha? Yes, sweetheart. She returned to her drawing. I don't want it. Ryan and I exchanged looks. In the 3 months since St. Catherine's, Martha's carefully constructed world had crumbled. The newspaper story had exposed everything, the bribes, the manipulation, the orchestrated campaign against our family. She'd retreated to a small apartment across town, her social circle evaporating as quickly as her reputation. Maybe we should see what it is, I suggested, though part of me wanted to burn it unopened. Emma shrugged, so I carefully unwrapped the package. Inside lay my missing photo album, its blue cover faded but intact. A note rested on top. I kept them safe. With trembling fingers, I opened the album. Every photo was there, perfectly preserved. Emma's birth, her first steps, family vacations and quiet moments at home. Martha hadn't destroyed them after all. Look, Emma. I knelt beside her. These are all our memories. She finally looked up, her small fingers tracing a photo of herself as a toddler. Why did Grandma Martha take them? Sometimes, Ryan said, joining us on the floor, people do wrong things because they're afraid of losing what they love. Did she love us wrong? Yes, I answered, surprising myself with the gentleness in my voice. But that doesn't mean we have to love wrong in return. Emma considered this, then reached for her art supplies. She selected a recent photo from her birthday party, one showing her blowing out candles while Ryan and I watched, David capturing the moment on his new camera. Carefully, she pasted it into the album's final empty page. There, she declared. Now it's finished properly. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw David's car in the driveway. He'd been coming over more often since reopening his restaurant, bringing food and stories and the kind of laughter we'd almost forgotten how to share. "Uncle David!" Emma ran to greet him. I started to close the album, but Ryan caught my hand. "We could send her a copy," he said quietly, "of Emma's birthday photo." "Why?" "Because you won." He squeezed my fingers. "You protected our family without becoming what she feared you were. Maybe that's worth acknowledging." I thought about Martha, alone in her apartment, surrounded by the consequences of her choices. Would you have sent her away if I hadn't gathered the evidence? I don't know. His honesty was like a balm. But I'm grateful you showed me the truth, even when it hurt. David appeared in the doorway, Emma on his hip. "Who's ready for my new pasta recipe? And why does my favorite niece have glitter in her hair?" "I'm your only niece," Emma giggled. As they headed to the kitchen, I picked up the photo album, weighing its history in my hands. The last page caught my eye, Emma's birthday photo, but something else too. She'd drawn around it, creating a frame of hearts and stars. And at the bottom, in her careful first-grade handwriting, my family. No mention of who was missing, no space left empty for what was lost, just the simple truth of who remained, who chose to love right instead of hold tight. I took a fresh envelope from Ryan's desk and slipped the birthday photo inside. On a small card, I wrote only, "Emma's 7th birthday. She's happy. No accusations, no triumph, just an offered moment, a glimpse of the joy Martha had tried too hard to control." Whether she'd understand it as mercy or torment, I couldn't say. But as I sealed the envelope, I realized it didn't matter anymore. We had our memories back, but more importantly, we were making new ones, better ones. Ones where love didn't need to be earned or proved, it just needed to be given, freely and without conditions. That would be our legacy to Emma. And maybe, somewhere in her solitude, Martha would finally understand what she'd lost by trying to possess it instead.